evening. First one is pretty easy. Get it? Easy. Pretty easy. Alright, here we go. Who's got it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. The alphabet song. Who do you have, Charity? Zev. Very good. Okay. It's as simple as that. Zev. So give it to me. Zain.
Like Olam Hazeh.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So what would it be? Olam Hazeh?
I don't know.
And
It's
Olam Haba.
Yeah.
Olam Haba means what?
The world to come.
The world to come. So Olam Hazeh would
It's
be.
right now. The world to be.
So this world.
So right now.
Yes. So Zeh would be anything this.
Anything present.
Well, not necessarily not present. Anything this. Anything like this pen. This
Okay.
this board. This room. This anything that had where you would say this. Zeh is this. Okay, as opposed to that. This and that. By the way, you know what the difference is to in modern Hebrew? Speaking of modern and biblical Hebrew, in modern Hebrew, if I were to tell you in English, this or that, or this and that, do you understand the distinction between those two? Grammar 101.
This is this and that is that.
Okay?
This is it.
Huh? How would you say that in Espanol? This and that.
Esto y aquel.
Okay. So, and notice what did you do with your finger? For aquel, para allá, right? So that is the distinction. This means nearness, that means away. Okay? So when you say I want this one, that means it's the one that's closer to you. When you say I want that one, it's the one that's away from you. Okay? So this and that. In modern Hebrew, now there is a word, we're not getting into it tonight, but there is a word for that in Hebrew. And just to give you a hint, it sounds exactly like the one for he. So
Hey.
Him, is that for singular or him?
this is for singular. Zeh. Yes. So yeah, well you said it.
Who is he?
Okay, so who? Okay? Would be that one. Who would also be that? Okay?
In modern Hebrew.
No, in biblical Hebrew.
Biblical Hebrew.
In modern Hebrew, it's just zeh, this, zeh.
Whoa.
This or this. There's no that.
I thought who was like he.
It is. That's why I didn't want to get into it.
Okay.
Because who is he, but who can also be that.
I don't like that.
It depends on how you use it.
I don't like that. Well, because they use who for him a lot.
Yes.
So I don't like that. I don't like that who can also mean that.
So we'll get into more of that next week. No, we will, because next week is Yom Kippur. We'll get more into that in a couple of weeks. Or maybe Nora will be saved because we'll be throwing the other class in, and so we'll be starting in a different direction here. So anyway, all right. So zeh is this. So in modern Hebrew, you would say zeh v'zeh. You would say this and this. You don't say this and that. You say basically zeh. Zeh is this and zeh is also that. Okay. So and that's my understanding. That's what that was my understanding of it. Okay. Who's got it? 1, 2, 3. What you got, Nora?
Chadash.
Chadash. Everybody say Chadash.
Chadash.
Okay, should be one that's familiar to you. Give it to me.
Chet. Si. Ke. E. Dal. Din. A. Shin. SH. Like the Greek. How to show?
Yes. Chadash. Okay? Chadash has a duality. It has a dual meaning. Okay? You know both of them. Very good. So it can mean new. It can also mean to renew. Both words come from there. Chadash. It's where we get Rosh Chodesh, the new moon. The head of the new.
The only thing that changed other than the food.
Yes. What vowels change? Rosh Chodesh.
Yeah.
It becomes this. Chodesh. Okay, who's got the next one? 1, 2. Cody, what do you have? Close.
Ish.
Aish. A-E. Okay? So there's a little distinction here between this, which is the short E. This is more of an E-I, A sound. Aish. So there's a website called this.
Ish.
Aish. Okay? So give it to me.
All of the silence. Yeah. She message. But it's not fire, is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So what did you say it is?
Fire.
Fire. Aish. So everyone say Aish.
Ish.
Fire. Okay, who's got it? 1, 2. Just 2 of you. No wild guesses.
Okay.
Joey, what do you have? Kohen. Kohen, yes. Kohen. All right, another one that you should be familiar with. All right, so give it to me.
Okay.
Okay, notice that there's no vowel here. The vowel is up here because it's an O.
It's the EI that we have down at the bottom.
Nun Sophie. And Kohen means
Priest.
priest. Now, because of all of this, because of the kaf, because of the vowel here, all of these things, so you see this word spelled a bunch of different ways.
Yes. Usually we just see it C-O.
C-O-H-E-N. Yes, that's the simplified way of spelling it. But this is where you're getting words like Khan, Kohen, Khan. These last names, the Khan makes brass instruments for band music, trumpets and things like that. They're an instrument producer. Okay, it tells you where the name comes from because that is a formulation off of Kohen. Okay, so it means priest. In order to be Kohen, in order to have one of these names, say it. Your father. This is saying if you have these names, this is saying you're a direct descendant of Aharon, of Aaron. Aaron is your great grandfather many times back, because you are a Kohen, you are a priest. All of the priests descended from Aharon. Okay. Next one. We've already had this word. but throw it up there again. So, Joy's got it. So what? Sus. Good. Give it to me. One that we haven't had a lot.
No, not doctor.
So you have sus, and that means of course. Of course. Don't say Mr. Ed. Anyway. Next. 1, 2, 3. Throw this one back at Cherry.
Off.
Get it real careful.
Okay, just kidding. No, then I don't have to do your practice again.
Sure. Now try it again. Right here. Sound it out. This is the word. This is the letter you're having problems with.
Yes.
Okay, so check this one next to this one. Because you're saying this like it's a vav, that's a vav. So this isn't a vav. Very good. Or. Okay, you have the vav right next door to it. Okay, give it to me.
Aleph is silent.
Aleph is silent. Notice there's also no vowel here because what? Your vowel's here. Okay, so this is this vav becomes a what? O and resh. So everyone say or. No, this is not like either or. This is another or.
Light.
Light. Like or shel Shabbat.
The light of Shabbat.
Okay, that's out of the bracha that the women say when they're lighting the Shabbat candle. Or shel Shabbat, the light of Sabbath, the light of Shabbat. All right, who's got it? 1, 2, 3. What do you have, Nora?
Bina.
Bina. Everyone say Bina.
Bina.
Okay, so give it to me.
Bait. B. The I go next to you.
Okay.
And then Nun. N. A. H. Bina. Understand?
Understanding. One of the Sefirot on the tree of life. Bina. Everyone say Bina.
Bina.
Understanding.
Normally, you don't always see it spelled.
I'm giving you because of the yud right here. So I'm spelling it out completely for you. Okay, who's got the next one? What do you have, Cody?
Makom.
Makom. Everyone say makom. Say it again, makom.
Makom.
Give it to me.
A. Wait.
Sorry. Are you happy now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Men. Sophie.
Makom. And makom means an abode, a dwelling. Okay, last one, Joey.
Cold.
Cold, very good. Give it to me.
Cold. There's no vowels that comes in cold. Louder.
Everyone say kol.
Cold.
And kol means
Voice.
voice. Now there's another kol. There's another kol. Kol. It sounds the same, but it's spelled a little bit differently, and it means all. Is it? Right. So, okay. All right, let's take 5. 5. So last week, if you remember, we were studying comparatives, where you compare, make contrast, those kinds of things. And so we're going to continue along those veins tonight. I do want to make the distinction that as I stated earlier, this is biblical Hebrew as opposed to modern Hebrew. There is a distinction, the same way that there's a distinction between Elizabethan English and modern English, saying that if you speak modern English, you still understand Elizabethan English for the most part. You get the gist, but it's not going to be exactly the same. And so the same thing is true with biblical Hebrew as opposed to modern Hebrew. The truth is that biblical Hebrew many times, oftentimes, is much more simplified than the modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew, in effect, tries to join with understanding that modern Hebrew spoken in Israel. Where did the Israelis come from? Where did the Israelis come from? Mostly from Europe. A lot have gone from the United States, from Canada. I was reading today, by the way, an interesting article that many of the Jews of Venezuela are now making aliyah, going across, because there's so much trouble in Venezuela that they're just leaving. And they're going to Israel. So, in effect, we can say that Hashem is using the destruction of the economy of that nation to pull his people out, make them go home. Because that's when people make aliyah, is when they become uncomfortable in their own home situation. Many Jews here in the United States don't want to go to Israel. They like their life here. They're comfortable here and these kinds of things. They don't want to go. And so many times God puts his people into uncomfortable situations to cause us to do what we need to do. So, but that being said, they come from all over the world, but particularly from Europe and from the United States and Canada, Central, South America, these places like this. So what I'm saying is this, that in modern Hebrew, because these Europeans are trying to learn a Semitic language, and as you're finding out, everything doesn't fit all nice and neatly. Everything's not all prim and proper, you might say. If you translated Hebrew directly into English, it would sound very rough, very ragged in our ears. Because Hebrew actually is a much more simplified language than what we are used to. So, in effect, they have fewer words to get the significance, to get the same meaning across, and oftentimes they will use there are fewer words involved. But in order to take out that raggedness, because if I'm learning Hebrew, speaking English or speaking Spanish, and I'm learning Hebrew, what is my thought? What language is my thought process in? English or Spanish or whatever, wherever country is my home, that's my thought process. Okay? So these guys over here, they're having fun because their thought process is what? Mostly what? Spanish, and then you're coming into English and then trying to learn Hebrew. So you're taking a double bridge there, all right? 2 bridges instead of 1. Okay, and this is in effect on Shabbat. This is some of the fun that we have on Shabbat because we're trilingual, right? And so what? We're doing the brachot in English, in Hebrew, in English, and in Spanish. And your brain is actually trying to change gears into those languages, and you're thinking in whatever your home language is. Whatever language you grew up with, that's the language you're thinking in. Basically, you have to learn to think in the other language. But that's kind of difficult to do, and the older you get, the harder it is to do. So, what I'm saying is, one of the things that has happened with modern Hebrew is modern Hebrew tries to fill in those gaps. Because in our brain, it sounds rough. Like something's missing, something ought to be there because you have the verb to be is missing. So that's missing and different things. This adjective, is it describing this or is it describing that? Is it describing the subject or is it describing the predicate? And you have all of these things that are going on. So in modern Hebrew, it tries to kind of fill in those gaps a little bit and make it not quite so rough. And it's helpful with the European languages. Which, of course, English is a European language. So it helps smooth that out a little bit. So that's some of the distinction that's taking place here. And what I'm giving you, like when I'm giving you the comparative here, I'm giving you the simplest form. We're just kind of making brief overlays here, skimming the surface to give you kind of an idea, a taste of where we're going, and sentence structure and things like this, so that as you're saying the brachot, you're getting a semblance, you're getting an idea of what's being said. Not a perfect, we're not going to be perfect speakers by any means, unless we're reading out of, reading Torah or reading a Hebrew script or something to that effect. So my goal is not to get you to be a perfect Hebrew speaker. My goal is to get you to be able to have some semblance of understanding what's going on, particularly in the Shabbat services and things like that. Okay? So, last week we were talking about the comparative, and this is the simplest form of the comparative. Okay? So, how many remember what we had here last week? Habayit. Habit, all right. Gadol. Mean. Ha. Ochel. Okay? So, Habit means what?
The house.
The house.
Great.
Great. Literal translation. Mean, which is, literal translation is from.
Okay.
The tent. So we're making a contrast here, we're making a comparison, we're comparing one thing to the other. So though mean, what we talked about last week is mean, means from. So literally it would read the house great from the tent. Okay? Because in Hebrew there are not true superlative forms. As in English you have good, better, best. Okay, so better and best would be called a superlative form. Better would be a good, and better would be comparative. And then best is superlative. Superlative meaning the ultimate. Okay, so instead of saying the house is greater than the tent, this is the way it would read in Hebrew: the house great from the tent. Now this would be the Hebrew that you find in Torah, the Hebrew that you would find in many of the brachot and such as that. That it would sound like this: the house is great, the house great. But right here, mean when you see the mean here and then you see another noun, this is telling you that you have a comparison, a contrast is taking place. Okay? So we told you last week that mean would rather say in English than. So now you say what? The house greater than the tent. Now you have an idea of where this sentence is going. So now you would say this. And now it makes sense to you. And literally what? Greater, bigger. Okay? So now what? The house?
Greater than the tent.
Now notice we're still missing what?
Is.
You're still missing a verb. The house, it would be here, is greater. So this is what I'm saying, that in our ears, the Hebrew would sound choppy. It sounds like, it's rough. This is, by the way, this helps in, this is what makes English a hard language to learn. This is part of it. Because many of the earlier languages are this way. They're very concrete. They're very, what's the word that I want?
Concise.
Yes, concise, precise. Whereas with English, with Western languages, we kind of ramble, okay? And we have a lot of words that we throw in, prepositions and whatnot, that help us to smooth out the sentence, where in the Semitic languages it's more to the point. All right, in saying that, everybody got this?
Wait, you're so right.
So let's say here's another way that you can do a comparative. Okay, right here. So now what do you have? Hagado. Now we talked about this a few weeks back, the adjective with the definite article. So you would say what? Hagado. In its context, it'll be what? If the context is correct, it is a comparative. In other words, you say, bring me the ball. I say, which one? And you say, Hagado, meaning the big one, okay? So you're making a contrast as opposed to Hakatan, which is the small one, okay? We have we have two forms of talit, okay? There are two styles of talit that we can wear. The first is called a talit Hagado, which is the big one that we wear during Shabbat, the one that we put over our head during Shabbat and such. Okay? I have on, don't look, I have on here a talit that's got my tzitzit attached to it. Okay? And it is called a talit hakatan. That is a small talit. Okay? So you have talit hagado, the big talit, or you have talit hakatan, the small talit. Okay? So you're making, so with the hagado, you're making a contrast. By the way, or, to say or, either or, this or that, or O, just an O, sound. O. So, hagado or hakatan? I just said what? The big one or the small one? Okay? And remember, because we say hagado, it's hagado literally would be what? The great or the big, okay? And remember that in this form, as a sentence, the one is understood, the big one. So if I respond to you, you ask me a question, which one? Then I would say, you ask me, hagado or hakatan? The big one or the small one? Okay, got it? You had a question? You got it? All right. Good for you. Okay, and with that, we're going to stop there because we're going to get into another section, and I don't want to get into that far tonight. So we're going to stop there with the grammar tonight, and we'll start the tree of life in about 5 minutes.